movies for black girl nerds.
Right, wonderful. How are you all doing today?
Good, thank you.
Great.
How are you?
I'm doing pretty good, thank you. Before I even got started, Jennifer, I wanted to say that it's too cool that you went to Cal State Long Beach. I'm also an alumni from there, so I'm like, so nice to meet another
Oh
alumni.
my God. You graduated. What department did you?
English, yeah. So all right.
Oh, small world.
Yes, seriously. Well, anyway, so I just thought we'd start off with just, some general questions about the amazing, world that you all have sort of crafted together. So one of the things that people just notice, of course, right when they see the title is the technology of every single episode. And how do you feel that in some ways, Love, Death, and Robots is both celebrating and warning people about the, I guess, use of technology?
Interesting. I guess that's the job of science fiction, isn't it? It's both the positive and negative implications of technology in our futures, and a warning and a celebration at the same time.
I think yours was probably the most negative
But it's
to,
like a little, yeah, it's predictable.
towards the future. I'm generally I like science fiction because I feel hopeful about the future. Even when it's dystopic, you kind of feel like, well, sometimes things need to get bad before they get better. So I and I also feel that I know it's probably not the popular view that technology will solve some of our problems because it's clear that by now we're not going to solve some of them, and so I'm hopeful that technology can. Um, so generally, I tend to choose stories that um, have at least a little bit of a hopeful outlook. Even yours has
Yeah,
it has a little bit of a
it's because we don't really want to depress everybody. I think a
no.
lot of science fiction is about inspiring and questioning and challenging, but it's not necessarily to depress. It's showing a world as how it could be and use it as an allegory for asking questions for what would apply to us today. So that's the big promise of science fiction. And it's ideally suited for something like animation because you can create these worlds with such vividness. Um, and it's the fun part of figuring it out.
I couldn't agree more. I think that, just with every single episode, I find myself, really reflecting and really thinking about the various themes, the various conversations and characters. And, one that really made me think was Pop Squad, which, that's the one that you directed, Jennifer. And I noticed that there were just so many themes that were relevant today, like policing and housing access and mental health and, our lifespan and populations. So how, and this is, open question too, just how were you all able to balance so many themes in an episode that is under 17 minutes?
Yes, it's a discipline because I think people don't understand necessarily. Short film is about an incredibly concise piece of storytelling to the point you can't have a single frame in the short that's fat. You have every single moment has to have reason. So it's an efficient little haiku. Um, but for something like Pop Squad and some of the themes involved, that story was written well like a couple decades ago.
Yeah.
And the thing that's amazing about these stories is how long they linger. These stories were stories that Tim had read, as he was growing up, and they stuck in his head for a reason. And it's because so many of the questions that they raise are things that keep recurring as being important to people in their everyday lives. And it's interesting that you bring up how timely it is, but we chose a story before many of these events happened. The story was written before many of these events happened, but there's something that's identifiable in the questions that it raises.
They're like horoscopes, they have
They're psychic.
just enough vagueness that you can kind of project your own reality onto them. But I think everything that Jennifer says is true. But I also think the nice thing about short stories is that if you were in a feature, and it happens even when we're writing these, that you feel like, oh well, this idea is so cool, I'm going to explore it, and you would write a bunch of stuff that you would later cut or not shoot or whatever. You're not really tempted to do that in a short story because you know there was a lot of scenes in your story. Like I would want to know more. I didn't want to come into that story where they just bring the guy out and kill him. I wanted to go in the apartment and see the scene of the crime again. But you can't do that. So it closes off some avenues in a good way. I don't think anybody ever produced a great piece of art with too much time and too much money. I think being forced to make decisions is a good thing for artists.
Oh, I think so too. And I feel like, there is such a thought and such an intention with every single episode, especially with that limited, time, that short form. And so, coming from backgrounds of, directing and being storyboard artists and writers, what do you think makes, Love, Death, and Robots so unique and so creative as opposed to other animation projects?
That's very adult. It's very high quality, and it's got a level of variety that I think will give everyone a different favorite. That's very unique to Love, Death, and Robots.
I think it's just a timing thing too. Honestly, when David Fincher and I were trying to sell heavy metal, we took meetings with everybody in town like 5 times over. And at that time, we had a $50 million movie with Jim Cameron was going to direct one, Zack Snyder was going to direct one, David Fincher was going to direct one. I was a drag on the ticket. But nobody wanted to take the chance. But now it's a different world, and people are ready for, at least in the West, because they've been doing it for a long time in the East. In the Western world, they're ready for adult animation, and the kind of stories that it can tell, that they're not for kids, and it's just had that stigma for so long here. I feel like I've been fighting it my entire career, in fact.
Well, for animation lovers like myself that enjoy your content, definitely thankful for that fight. And so, my final question really is more of a fun one. So, this is season 2, and I'm excited that it looks like you all will have a season 3. But do you all have a favorite episode of season 2 and why?
That's a tough one because you can't choose your favorites. You'll hurt the feelings of the others. We know all these directors. We don't want to piss them off. But I think I love the stop motion piece because it's stop motion. I love the 2D piece for Robert Valley because it's 2D. I love, Tim's because you wouldn't think that'd be coming from Tim Miller, the episode that he directed.
Yeah, he's such a 12-year-old child.
It's like such a sensitive tone for him.
I feel the same way. I can't say it. It would change by my mood. Honestly, if I want to laugh, then automated customer service is the one. And if you want to choose favorites by like what you lead with, we led by automated customer service because we realized that people like to laugh, especially now. And so we're hoping that it's like a I was going to make a bad joke about it, like a piece of candy in a panel van. No, it's like a little thing that entices them in, and then you see something like automated customer service, and then 2 episodes later you see Pop Squad, and it's like, what the fuck just happened here?
Yeah, you have.
I like that though.
Yeah,
people are going to be shocked.
That's something David Fincher was pointing out as well. that sort of whiplash between the different tones is part of the trademark of the show.
Yeah, we like that. We like that something philosophical can live right next to something puerile.
Me too. And I'm definitely one of those viewers that had that reaction from, going from that, very intense but very funny episode to very, like graphic and, just very serious to the other tones of episodes. But I love it because as an audience, we don't know what we're going to get, but there's always something to gain. So I love that you both can see, like the beauty in every single episode. So finally, is there something that you all wanted to share that I didn't ask about?
Well, I think that a show like this is a real passion project for all of us. We make this stuff because we love making this stuff. I mean, none of us have to be here. We're doing it because we want to. And I hope that it shows in the shows.
And I want fans to know that I have 1,000 short story books, anthologies on my Kindle. So we are just scratching the surface of the short stories that are available. Just on our wall, we have another 90 stories that we pulled but didn't get included for one reason or another. So if people want to see more, watch the show, get the numbers up so that Netflix will let us keep on doing this. Because I feel like we're just getting started.
There are a lot of stories.
Well, I look forward to seeing them all. I'm going to do my best to rally the people because this is amazing stuff. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Better shake your booties for black girl nerds. Better shake your booties for black girl nerds.